Welcome back to the Domain Academy podcast. This is our second to last episode before we announce the winner. And we're going through a contest. If you haven't followed along and you're wondering what the winner is all about and what we're talking about, we each started with $500 and we're going to take a year, which ends April 15th, to see who can make the most money as a new investor and see who can wind up turning that into the biggest pile of money at the end. Doesn't matter what domains you have left over. You might have a one-word categorykiller.com. If it didn't sell, it doesn't count. So what could you do cash-wise within a year? And we have a leaderboard, which we are sharing with everybody. I will put the link in the comments. One of the great things, besides just seeing where everybody's at, and you can see Mike is far and away beating everybody in first place, with Andrew coming up in second at about half that. And I'm rounding out the top three. But we have not only strategies that we talk about on the podcast, but we go through what buys we made, what the purchase price was, where we bought it, and how we sold it. So what was the sale amount and how we sold it? So you can follow along with everybody and see what types of names they're buying and how they're selling. We're trying to be as transparent as possible to let you understand how you could start out as an investor today with $500 and wind up with a profit. Let's go around and introduce ourselves and kind of just talk about what's happened in the last couple months since we've met last. I'm going to turn it over to Mike first. We'll go down in order of the leaderboard.
All right, I'm Mike Cyger. I have been focused on buying GoDaddy auctions at $1 and closeouts, watching them from the $50 point down to the $5 point. And for the first 2 quarters of this competition, first quarter I was getting up to speed. Second quarter, I got a lot of buys and sells. Looks like about 22 of them. Third quarter started to slow down, and that was towards the end of the year, Thanksgiving, holidays. But I did get another 8 sales or so, one of which was a big one. I bought for $580 and then sold for $950. And then I've gotten a relatively decent lead on everybody. So I felt like I've taken my foot off the gas the past couple of months. I have been watching what's going on, but I just haven't been checking every single day like I was leading up to this fourth quarter start. I have bought some names that I really do like, and I haven't promoted those the same way I have every other domain in the past. So for example, I just picked up Pickleball Fest and refunds.me. And I actually want those for my own portfolio. So I haven't promoted those as a wholesale to anybody. And I am keeping my fingers crossed that maybe a retail lead will come in and I might be able to sell one of those. But the idea is to hold those long term. And so, yeah, that's where I am. That's it. Luckily, I picked the right strategy right from the beginning. I have just tried to remember to check auctions and closeouts every single day and focused on $1 to $50 is the sweet spot.
Yeah, I think that's great. One of the things that I want to tease out is that this year we're going to be doing some new podcasts. I have a couple ideas, but either way, we're going to cover expireddomains.net and how you search through expireddomains.net, how you set up your lists, and how you can check those things every day like you're doing, so that a new investor can get hands-on experience on trying to find those names, the needle in the haystack, and how they could set that up to be proactively looking for them, so they could just check a quick, filter search that they have.
Yeah.
Andrew, we're going to move on to you, second place. What's changed since last time?
Sure. Yeah. So Andrew Alleman, I write domain name wire.com. So I've sold most of the domains I bought. So let's see here. I've purchased 37 names. And how many does the leaderboard say I've sold? 28. So just a handful that are still there. The downside of that, of course, is that I have very few names that could get an end user buyer now as we round out the contest, unless I buy some more. I, like Mike, some of the names, I'm like, okay, I'll sell it, but I don't like selling it because I know in the long run I could sell it for $3,000, $4,000, or $5,000. But for the most part, I've been selling these for $99 or so to people. The one name that I posted on Twitter that I had multiple people that were like, ooh, I want that, was a 4letter.com. Let's see where that one is. VGOE.com. bought it for 221, sold it for 299. So, you know, going back, obviously you need a couple $100 to buy a four-letter.com. That's kind of the going price minimum. Really, it's more like 300 or 400, depending on the letters.
Yeah.
On GoDaddy auctions. So you kind of had to get some money to make some money there. But
which is what you did at the beginning of the contest by selling all those smaller domains.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a more liquid market, right? So that's something to think about for new domain investors. If you buy liquid names, three-letter names are super liquid, but they're very expensive. Starting at 4 letters, you can kind of get some that are not as expensive. That's a good opportunity because worst case scenario, hopefully you can at least get your money back kind of thing if you need to. But ideally, if you're watching them closely, you're bidding, you're monitoring the 4-letter market, you see which letters are popular and which ones are selling. There's an opportunity there to at least flip them quickly compared to other domains that are more difficult to flip. Other thing I've done since last time we talked, I talked about how I went to NamesCon and sold a couple names there. Well, at the ICA meeting, I was able to sell a few names. I brought my list and cornered people. And the best one was, I went up to someone who I talked to who's like, yeah, I want to see your list. I want to buy some. And I went up to him when he was next to another domain investor. And the other domain investor's like, ooh, you know, he starts looking over his shoulder. So that made the first person like, oh, no, I'll take this one. No, he can't have that. I'll take this one and this one, and sold a couple names that way. So
yeah, that's good. That's a good strategy.
Yeah, we were sitting at lunch and he gets out his list with the person next to him. And he shows it to her, and she's like, "Oh, I'll take this one." I'm like,
I forgot about that one.
Why didn't I bring my list?
Right in front of Michael, I made a sale.
I know he's closing. He's closing deals.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so we'll move on to me. I'm in third place. I like what you said about liquidity. So I bought a 3letter.io early on, and I got a good deal on it. And you always make money in the buy, and I've been holding out for that to see if I could get more end user price on it, but we're running up against the end. So the problem that I had is not on the board yet because it got a issue with Afternic. I put it out there for sale and I had too many buyers come, I think, at the same time that tried to buy it because, I put it out as just under what you would get wholesale on the auctions. And so, I'm listing it at like lower than wholesale price for a 3letter.io. And too many people tried to pick it up. So if you can buy smart on those liquid names, those short names, then you can make money. So I knew when I bought it, I'm always going to make money on it because I could wholesale it, but I tried to see if I could use that as one of the names to move ahead in the contest. So we'll post. It's only $100 that I'm going to net because I wanted to move it quick. Maybe I moved it too quick. That many people coming, but Afternic is doing a great job. They proactively, without even knowing it was my name, so they reached out to me like, oh, we didn't even notice this. But they reached out and they're reconnecting everything to get the name sold, even through the error. So that's one good thing of having a brokerage that helps you, right? If there's any issues, it's smooth when you want to sell your own name, but anytime there's an issue, then that's when it really counts. So I should move up another $100 sometime soon. But the other thing that I did was I started to try and wholesale my names in bulk to investors, and I'm trying to do things that I think like anybody can do. So I put my names on Twitter or X, and I joined the Discord channel that Josh has for investors, which anybody can join. You just have to go there and ask to join, and they'll let you in. And I put some rationale behind why I bought the name. So I used Main Academy's tools and showed the value. I showed how many other TLDs are taken for this. Excuse me, active companies that are using the name or the keyword that are potentially their startups, things like that, so that people could see that there's actual value behind this name, and then get a wholesale price on it. So wholesale, higher than what I paid for it, and I was able to make a couple sales that way. And I also was able to do a bulk deal where I said, look, reached out to a couple people and said, I'm wanting to move up in the contest, make me an offer on these names. And since I was able to acquire them at a low price, even if I sold, I think the average sale I did on the bulk one was around 35 or $40 a name. But if I'm only picking them up for $15, you still make a decent amount of money. So that's what I've done since we last talked. I tried a couple things that didn't work, so we can go into that in a bit because I want to go over learnings. But I'm going to turn it over to Piyush, who moved into fourth place since we talked.
Right. As Joe said, I'm on the fourth place. My name is Piyush Patel. I hold about 11 names, and luckily I have been able to sell one of the 11 names I'm holding. One of the mistake I made was initially when I had $500 within a week without understanding the con stuff. I just spent all of the money. What I should have done is like what Michael did and Andrew did, slow and steady approach. But I ran out of the time and Joe topped me up with another $100, which I spent it on one name. And luckily I was able to flip it. But I think when you are buying names, make sure that there has to be a liquidity potential to it. Otherwise, you're looking at sitting on those names for a year or two. This is what from my experience. So I was in fear when I started this, that I was never going to be able to move any name, right? Because I've never sold anything within a year, except last year. I literally sold 3 or 4 names, which I bought it last year and flipped it within 7-8 months, right? But this is from my experience. So now I have probably 1 month in the contest, and I'm going to have $600 probably within a week or two to play around. Let's see what I can do further to go up the ladder on this. Well, probably be the number 3 on the game. So that's about me.
Yeah, I think that's good. And that's one of the things that I think helps. Like I have money now. I think I have $500 still, right? I started with $500. I think I still have $500 in cash, at the end of the day, to go buy more names, which is going to help, to move up. I also think one of the things that I noticed about the people that are winning is everybody who's like the top 3 spots has more names than anyone in the bottom 3. So I think their average is around 40 or 50 names per person that they bought over the course of the contest. So I think that spreading that out, like you brought up, like not spending all your money, but spreading out the opportunities that you have is going to pay off. So you have to buy smart, but you also have a volume play. And that's one of the things that's important about domain investing, right? You don't know, you do your best to buy what names you think have value, but you don't know which one is going to sell at any given day or year. You just know that you made a smart decision and it should sell. But the sell-through rate on a good portfolio is maybe 2 or 3% on a really good portfolio. So that's 2 or 3 names out of 100.
On the high side, I would think you get bigger. Yeah.
Have a really good portfolio. So like if you're optimized and you're doing your best, you're going to sell 2 or 3 names in a year out of 100, right? So it's an odds game. If you're just starting out, you'd be lucky, I think if you're going to do a 1% sell-through rate, right? Like there's a learning curve. So it's a volume game. Not only do you have to buy smart, but you also have to buy enough names that you have the more chances that people are going to come by in that amount of time to buy your name.
Well, and that's why I think this competition is useful for newer investors that want to understand and wrap their arms around this industry, their mind around this industry, is that, yes, you can start in the industry and you can buy and hold for 10 years and hope that you get a 1 to 2% sell-through rate and then you become a positive investor. But that's a long slog. You listen to a lot of investors that are now really successful. They started 10 years ago buying and holding and being in the hole for 4 or 5 years until finally they got enough domains in their portfolio that started to sell, that now they're on a positive ROI per year, but they did the investment early on. And that's a nest egg now. That's sort of an annuity that they can count. If they bought right, they can count on a certain number of them selling. They don't know which ones, but a certain number of them will sell. Whereas this competition, I think, is useful because you need to buy domains that you can flip to another investor. Our job is to, as new investors, is to focus on cash flow. You have $10, $15, $20, $30 that you spend, turn it into $95 after the 5% commission. Then go do that again. Do it 10 times, do it 20 times. And then when you have some cash in your bank, then take a little bit bigger swing. Don't spend all of it on one domain. Buy a $200 domain and try and sell it for $400. Buy a $500 domain and try and sell it for $1,000. Because then you can multiply the return that you're getting a lot quicker with one domain, not 5 domains or 10 domains. So I think that's my biggest takeaway, is that if I were to see a new investor today, I would say that's the way you want to start. Because not only do you get a faster signal on the domains you're buying, are you buying the right domain names that another investor would invest in? And sure, maybe you're giving them a 20-time return and you're getting like a 1-time or a 3-time return. But if they see value in it and they're more seasoned investors, then you're heading in the right direction.
Right.
I'm
So
going
I
to
think,
add something else as well as the new investor, right? The difference between new investor and professional investors, they are actively selling all the domains, actively promoting as well. Look at the board. Mike did well because he's actively promoting. Andrew did well because he's actually promoting. Joe did well because he's doing the same. Whereas me, I'm just waiting for the inbound. And I don't think that strategy works. If you're a new investor, learn as much as you can. Buy, don't buy too many, just have the taste of it, and just from there, just try and slowly and gradually build the portfolio. Because
so
I
I
did
think,
not do it as a new investor. Still do not do outbounds that much because very less success I had. So
Which is
that
funny
discouraged
because
me.
you're on X a lot. You post
Yeah.
Yeah.
other stuff. You just didn't post anything related to the investor challenge.
No, I just, I only go on to the X or LinkedIn when I sell something,
Right.
which I have to learn from you because you promote it everywhere. Andrew does the same, Joe does the same. But I don't know, I'm a shy person. I just do not shout out loud. I only shout out when I'm successful.
why
So,
don't
and
we
it's funny
talk
because
about
Andrew, please.
some of the ways that a new investor could sell to other investors? Because I know, Mike and I have newsletters. That's obviously something that a brand new domain investor wouldn't have. So obviously X, although, your following might not be as large, that's an opportunity there. I would encourage people not to tag people on their for sale listings there because that tends to upset people, especially Rick Schwartz. So just don't tag the domain king.
Right.
I'll just mute you. He will loudly block you. So you don't want to be that person who's kind of spammy, putting too much out there. Name Pros, the domain forum, there are places there where you can list domains for sale at wholesale and meet people. You mentioned some Telegram or Discord, those sorts of things. And those you can find out about as you start working on Names Pros and talking to people, that sort of thing. I personally am not in any of those, but I should get into those. Another option is there are some wholesale marketplaces. Well, actually, there's kind of one now. I can mention your competitors, right, Joe?
Yeah.
So, for example, Adam has a wholesale marketplace.
Yep.
I bought 33 names on Adam Wholesale a week or two ago, starting at, I think some of them were just people liquidating them because they were going to let them go at a few bucks. The most I paid was 149. But people were excited to get the sales. They're like, hey,
Yeah.
can you, make sure you note that you've gotten a name so I can get my money, right? Even though it was only 50, 60, 70 bucks. But looking at the names and who it is, these were ones that they hand registered or got on very discounted, drop catch or closeouts, cheap closeout. And they're just trying to do that, right? They're trying to turn $10 into $40 and then $40 into $80 and so on and so forth. So I think those are some ways that you can do it, even if you don't have a big social following. And, I think LinkedIn would be another one, maybe, but that's not quite as, a salesy kind of setup. But those are, I think, are ways that people can do it immediately.
Yeah, and the thing I'll add to that, because I agree with all those, and if you look at my sales list, you'll see that I started off with Name Pros and X, and then later moved to my newsletter list. But I also use Discord to reach out to people that I know. Like if I know an investor always posts about financial sales, and I just bought a financial related domain name, I'm going to reach out to them first and give them the first right of refusal on it. I did that for one investor. The first domain that investor took at the price that I quoted, and then the second domain they passed on it, and I sold it through my newsletter. For another type of domain, I know that there is one investor that likes that type of domain. I texted him. I happen to know him, so I texted him, and he purchased that right off the bat. So it didn't even go into a newsletter or anything. So I think DMs are good. If you know that Andrew likes media companies and you offer him a single domain name for a media company that's actually in the space that he likes at a reasonable wholesale price, he's going to look at it and not think that it's spam.
Yeah.
I had a gentleman reach out to me because he knew I was in this contest, and it was a great domain name that at instashots.com. Instashots.com.
Yeah.
Offered it to me. He just came to me. I'm like, well, I can buy it, but I have to buy it at GoDaddy. So go list it at GoDaddy at Afternic and give me the link. And so I bought it for $260, I think it is. And then I sold it for $399. So there's lots of different ways to work it. You don't need a big following, but you do need to put yourself out there in a really focused, earnest, thoughtful way.
That's the key. Like on LinkedIn, whenever a domain investor tries to connect with me, which I'll get like 5 to 10 of those a week. I'm like, oh boy, here it comes. Because as soon as I accept, they're sending me a message on LinkedIn with like, I'm marketing these super premium domains that aren't super premium, right? And they have, there's nothing related to me particularly like that I would be interested in the name about and that sort of thing. And it's just delete, delete, delete. I think if you come in focused, that's where you can be successful.
Yeah.
I've got a question, right? On social media, which I did it and I have stopped doing it. Should you tag the potential buyer when you advertise your domain? A potential company, potential buyer, CEO, CTO. I made a
I would
mistake.
not.
I stopped it
Yeah,
6
me
months
either.
ago. Realized that it's not the right way to approach them. Some
Yeah.
do reply back on the post. They said that no, we would pass the opportunity. We don't want it. But
Well, that means they looked at it,
yeah,
so
2 or
and
3%
you were able to
success,
read,
and they do reply. Yeah.
Yeah.
but you haven't sold anything that way.
Do I recall? No, but
Well,
I
I'll
did
tell you what,
receive.
if anyone listening to this has sold a name that way,
Yeah,
I'd be
let us
curious.
know.
And then I'd also be curious how many times they did it. Like if they did it 1,000 times and they sold once, and well,
I could
I think I reached out to one of the top company. They had like $60 million turnover. It's not, the name is not on this list, but within a month, I received an inquiry on Afternic. I pushed for 10,000 more, and then this backed off. Since then, I have never heard. So I don't know if that was because of the LinkedIn post, because that company is going on for like 30 odd years, and they have got plural and I have got singular, which makes more sense. And I think they might have approached through because that's what it was listed, right? And it was listed for 30,000, and I asked for, and they asked for 30, and I asked for 40, and that's where the question happened, and they never came back again. So I'm not sure if that was the effect of from there, because I never had any inquiry after that.
Yeah, I think that it can work. I just don't like the potential downside where every company thinks that they own their name and they're not aware of any other companies in the world that have a similar or the exact same name, maybe with another word attached. And then it can easily go down the route of EDRP where you could be completely in the right, but now you need to expend your time, resources, and money to defend it. And so for me, that's just not worth my time.
Yeah.
I have stopped it. I have stopped it like 6 months ago. I
Yeah.
won't do that. I just put it out there. If someone wants to reach out, if someone finds the potential, and if algorithm matches it with the same company name or something, I don't know, on the social media,
Yeah.
they might see it on the social media.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I learned from Mike during the contest is really we're all doing research to be able to buy these names, right? They make sense to us for some reason, so we have some rationale behind our purchase. We're not just picking a name because it looks good. And Mike said you're putting these names out for people to buy, but you're not telling them the why. Like, why did you buy this name? And I think that's really important. So if I was going to approach somebody, just cold call or whatever on any platform or DM or anywhere, why did I pick this name? Like, why might you be interested in it? And then list that out. One of the names I sold, I used Adam's appraisal and showed people that this name is like a 9, anything 7 or above on their appraisal usually is pretty good and can get into the top promotion level, 7 or so higher. But it was like a 9 or 9.5 out of 10. And I showed people here because those names have value even on the wholesale market in Adam, right? Because people say this is accepted and it's a 9.5, like it's going to get premium promotion. So I think whatever you're doing to research the name and find those value propositions that make you buy it, just make sure that you're conveying that out to other people.
I did have someone when I brought the list to ICA who said, have you run these through the Atom checker yet? Like, what are the scores on Atom? So people do care about things like that.
The name I sold on Atom, it has got 92 TLDs, and the valuation is like $20,000 or something. So you have got to put it out there. I mean, it's the tricky one. It's a Lion King. So it might use a personal use case, or probably the person is bought is probably going to try and flip it back for a few $1,000s. But there's a string attached to it probably because it's trademark. I'm not sure. Right.
Yeah,
but because
that challenges me. So it was lionking.io.
Yeah.
So that's not a type of domain I would buy.
I take my chances, right? Because I had no clue about this trademark issue and whatnot. Now I've been very careful now. If it is below $100, I'll take my chance. If it is not related to the tech industry or something, yeah, someone might want to use a personal use case or not something like gmail.io. That's definitely no go. But if it sounds generic, if it is generic two-word combination, if it's not, it can walk away from a few things. If it is below $100, I do take my chances.
I'll provide some additional commentary around lionking.io, which I saw you purchased and that it's pending sale right now. When I looked
Yeah.
at it initially, I thought that's a trademark. I've got
Yeah.
3 kids. They went through
Mhm.
all the Walt Disney movies, and
Yeah.
I only know one Lion King in the whole world, and it's related to Simba. And
Yeah.
Mhm.
that's, but then I went to LinkedIn. I'm like, well, hold on a second. Let me just step back and use some of the tools so I can better understand it. And all I did was go to LinkedIn, typed in Lion Space King, and it came back with 90 companies that use Lion King in
That's
the
right.
name. Lion King Safaris, Lion King Software, Lion King. And so now my understanding of this domain name is a little bit more expanded.
Or
That if it were only a trademark owned by a single company
Mhm.
like Coca-Cola, which we want to stay away from,
Right.
then it wouldn't have all these other companies using it. Disney would have defended it.
Mhm.
But it is I guess, a generic phrase. Again, I'm not a lawyer. I only
Right.
spent a few minutes looking at it, but it did give me more to think about that it might be a good name, especially one in the IT space or technology related with that TLD of .io.
I've seen pubs and restaurant with
Pubs and
that same name.
restaurants.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they wouldn't
Lion
want the
King.
.io domain.
Probably not, but if someone
Mhm.
wants to have some sort of low-level identity or something, at least they can have that opportunity, right?
Maybe,
So
except restaurants and pubs don't spend any money on TLD on domain
Mhm.
names, and the
yeah,
.io would
I,
them,
I
I
guess
think.
I guess the question I always ask myself is why am I buying this name? And if
Mhm.
it's because it's become popular, this trademark, that sort of thing, that to me is my line, right? Among other things. And I question why the person bought it from you. It's someone you know. So then, that's 2 people there. So I guess the other thing I'll say for domain investors is it's not just the $100 you spend on a name that you risk losing in a trademark case, right?
Mhm.
yeah,
If they file UDRP, the monetary damage is just losing the name, right? That's the only thing that can get there. But it does, if you're a frequent investor, it can create a reputation, right? And when you
right.
read these UDRPs, it says this person has, they've been subject to 7 UDRPs or they've lost
Right.
7 UDRPs. The other thing is, it's rare, but they can sue you too and collect
Mhm.
damages.
Right.
And so then you're talking about legal fees,
Yeah.
and then if you lose, money on top of that. And again, it is rare. So I understand it's all about risk profiles, but I just also, the ethos of, say, the Internet Commerce
Mhm.
Association, right,
Mhm.
is wanting to separate a
Right.
domain investor from a cyber squatter
Mhm.
label and wanting to be careful there. Now, I bought names before that I thought weren't trademarks, and they were, like ones with realtor in them,
Mhm.
which is a trademark.
Mhm.
And I'm sure I have some in there right now that people will, they might have a trademark for. I think they're more
Mhm.
generic, right? And there could be other users. I think they're defensible, but it could happen. And so just being able to, that's kind of the line I will.
Yeah, that's good
I,
advice.
I, I, I
Yeah.
wouldn't touch it, but just out of curiosity, 80% of the brand new domain investors, they have no clue. Like when I started, I had no clue about trademarks.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
When it sounds fantastic, it sounds like, oh, it's a great two-word domain name. I would just buy that. I had no sense of what trademark is, that there's a law behind it. They're going to sue you in the court. I have no idea. I had no idea, right? And when there's a long list of GoDaddy auctions every day, right? There is no way you're going to, if you're bidding on 10, 20, 30 names every day, I think 80% of the people, I don't know if they're even looking into the trademark thing.
Yeah. Go ahead, Joe.
I think it's something really to be aware of because I think that's one thing that you said, like new investors will buy names that are trademarked. If it was me, Lion King, I looked into it too because I was surprised and I saw Disney's trademark as the Lion King. But I think that's
Mm.
close enough. Like it's close enough for me that, like Mike said, he only knows the one Lion King right before he started looking into it, and that's what
Yeah.
I think of. Like I think of Disney, and for me, that's too close to their mark. Like I can only think of one thing off the top of my head. I never heard of the Lion
I,
King
I did a
Safari
quick
or any of the other
research on
things.
that, right? And I made a
Hmm.
small error because
Hmm.
it said Hakuna Matata is the trademark. But it was too late because I already
Hmm.
won that name, right? When I did
Hmm.
the deep research on that, it says The Lion King and Hakuna Matata both
Hmm.
belongs to Disney, right? It
Mm.
was too late. By the time I already paid the money for it,
Hmm.
right? And I thought, okay, fine, let me do like what Mike did, like how many companies are registered on LinkedIn and whatnot, right? And there are decent amount, and even on
Hmm.
Google, it's not just Disney, right? And when you do the deep search with AI, I mean, they would throw a bunch of companies using the same thing. I thought, okay, fine. I mean, I took the, but it's not something I would pick up again. And as a serious
Mhm.
investor, I'm now staying away and I do my research
You have
thoroughly.
something about this in Domain Academy, right, Joe?
Yeah, we do. And I think not only do we have it in the learning section, but we have it on the tool. So if you do the research snapshot, we point out trademarks, number of trademarks, and you can go look that up and find out if a name has a lot of trademarks around it, or if it just has maybe one, right? That to me is a red flag. And I probably should throw this out there so I don't get in trouble, but none of us are lawyers. We're not giving you legal advice. You always contact your own attorney and go talk to somebody that actually knows the law, IP law. But I think it's better to be safe than sorry. And if it was
That's
me,
right.
if I see one trademark on the tool, then I'm a lot more hesitant than if I see like 300 trademarks, because to me, that seems more generic, and there's a lot of different companies that are using it. You still have to be careful, because out of 300 trademarks, your chances of selling it to somebody who doesn't have a mark, like in that section, gets lower. But if I have one, like if it's like Coca-Cola, like Mike said, that's a very well-known brand, and you're only going to have one trademark for it because they're that company.
Coca-Cola, IBM, it can be 3 letters
Yeah,
too, right?
right,
You'd be
exactly.
hard
Yeah.
pressed to find,
Mhm.
IBM is different from, say, XRC, right?
Right. Mhm.
I'm sure someone has a trademark, and AEF, someone has a trademark, but that's very different from IBM, right?
Yeah.
Or
and
Microsoft, which
Yeah.
is something that,
Exactly.
it's just so well known.
Mhm.
BMW being another one,
Mhm.
where, everyone thinks of the car company when they hear that.
Yeah, I think it's just safe to stay away from anything
Stay away
that's
from
like
those
that.
names, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if you
That's your
feel
best
like you
bet.
need to talk to a lawyer,
Yeah,
then
then stay away.
and you're
Mhm.
investing in it. It's
Right.
one
Yeah.
now, if you're starting a company, and this is something
Mhm.
when I started college, I went through, I found what I thought was the perfect name. Mike and I were talking, I came over, we had some whiskey, and we went over a list, and I'm like, this is it, and I was able to get it at what I thought was a reasonable price. And then I reached out to an attorney because I did a little more searching, and it was very generic, very
Mhm.
generic. But he's like, there's this other company that's been around. They used a misspelled version of the name.
Mhm.
They've been around for a long time, regardless of whether they filed a trademark or not. They could still have a common law trademark. He's like, just move on. It's not worth it.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so I did. So
Here's my question, right? Aftonic does not allow, if there is a name that's trademarked, it does not allow to relist it on the market, right? But should the GoDaddy or any other auction platform should be allowed to sell those names in first place?
I'm not sure that first statement is correct, because there are trademarks on pretty
Mhm.
much every single word out there. I own single words that I've listed on Afternic that have hundreds of trademarks on them. So I'm not sure why your domain was flagged.
It was flagged 3 times, and then I reached out to the line manager I have with GoDaddy, and he said to me that this is not going to be allowed because of the trademark issue. So,
That's so associated with a single
Mhm.
company that
correct,
they.
correct.
So then are we talking about Lion King right here?
No, no.
Okay. So then I would go and see how many other companies are using
Okay.
that phrase in the world, and how many other trademarks there are. And if there are hundreds of them, then
So that's okay.
it provides you with some logic to present an argument.
Right.
But I think it goes back to it's just better not to get involved with those things.
Yeah.
Let's change gears just a little bit and talk about, if we were starting over, would there be anything that we learned from this so far that we would do different? I think that's something that would really help a new investor. So looking back, we've had about 10 or 11 months. If we were to start this contest over, what would we do different? I'm gonna start with Ann.
yeah, well, first I would have made sure Mike didn't join the contest. And then, so I know, so some of the things that Mike did that I copied a little bit, although I wouldn't go as deep as him, just because I just didn't feel comfortable with it in my newsletter, right? My newsletter is a little bit broader than Mike's, which is more domain investors. Mine is domain investors, registrars, registries. Is that explanation of why you bought it. A great one-word domain, you don't need to explain anything. A
Mhm.
two-word domain, you need to explain, especially if you looked up comps. If you're like, hey,
Yeah.
names with this keyword frequently sell for $10,000, and I'm offering it to you for a couple $100, pointing those things out, I think, is value. It's true that if you have to explain a domain name to someone because you've come up with some esoteric logic on
Right.
why it's important, that's an issue. But if it's like, hey, I did my research and here's my research, and share it, that would be a way to go. I was reticent to use my network at the beginning because I wanted to pretend more like I was a new investor. But since I'm not a new investor, that just doesn't, work, especially because didn't want to put the elbow grease into really doing that outbound. I've never done outbound before. What else would I have done differently? I did have some success with hand registrations. The few I hand registered, I sold. It's a tricky area, but over the past year, I've done a lot of hand registrations and I've sold some. I even sold just yesterday on Afternic, I sold a .ai that I hand registered in September. And I sold that for $8,000. And so granted that those are expensive, but had I bought that as part of the contest, that would have been really nice. So, but just some .com, there are opportunities out there and there are more AI tools now than ever before that can help you surface some of these. I probably would have done some more of that because you can get those for what? A new registration is right now $10.49 with Domain Discount Club Pro, $10, $11. You can really kind of scale that if you have experience and know what you're doing. I wouldn't suggest a new domain investor go down that path to begin.
Yeah, that Domain Discount Pro, I was going to bring up before, because one of the things that I think is really valuable about it now is you can get the promo code where they just raised it to $30 off your auction purchase rate on anything. So now it's MAR Pro Win. So I'll put that in there, but you get a $30 auction credit. So you can pick up a closeout that's $30 for free and just pay the renewal, right? When you're starting out as a new investor, anything that you can use like that can help you, because even if you buy a name for free, with your $30 credit and you can flip it for $80 or $100, that's all profit. So that's a thing. Just try and take advantage of any of the opportunities that are out there.
Can I plug some more for you there? Can I just
go ahead.
someone who doesn't work for GoDaddy? So Domain Discount Pro is $360 a year. Now you're getting $360 of coupons here, right? So effectively you're covering the costs there. You get access to Domain Academy, which I highly recommend. When Mike was running it back in the day, now with you, Joe, I always recommend people to that. It's kind of a shortcut, right? You can learn all this stuff. You can go to the forums, you can read Domain Name Wire, which you should do, but it's not packaged neatly, right? And so I think that, plus the fact that you get cheap prices on all the domains, I think that's a great place to start. When someone comes to me and is starting as a domain investor, I don't want them coming to me with all these questions. So I think the first thing I say is go do Domain Academy. And now that that's part of that package there, I think it's worth the investment for all new domain investors.
And I'll just point out one more thing, Andrew, that the Domain Academy includes the course itself, which you can go through at your own pace, but also the tool set. And it's the tool sets that give you the data that then allow you to rate a domain name against others, and then allow you to share that data with other people to convince them to buy it for a wholesale price, so you can churn and burn and build up that capital to start with. And
some of that data, to get it elsewhere, you have to sign up and pay for services, right?
That data, I think, would cost you probably $100 to $200 a month with the amount of data that Joe is providing at the Domain
I think people
Academy.
underuse it. I know I underuse it, right? I usually end up subscribing to those same services and paying for it anyway. And I'm like, I could just log into Domain Academy and do it. But so
even I before buying any domains, I always go on to the tool on the GoDaddy thing, and then I would always see the comparable similar domains sold before I take any decisions, and then I'll take the whole bunch of data and put it in the AI, and then I'd say, this name is in auction, and the comparable domains sold before. This is the history of it. What's the potential in 2026, 2025, based on those previous sales? And it would just probably do some mathematical or logical argument with me. So I use those data, and those data is going to cost you a fortune if you have to get it from NameBio or something, because it's all API based, and you have to be a member, or then you have to pay for those data.
Yeah.
So I kind of hijacked that. Sorry, Joe. I'll let you get this back on pace with what other people would have changed.
So I'll jump in. What I think I already brought up in a previous podcast, but I didn't take my own advice that we teach in Domain Academy, which is, focus when you're starting out on something that I didn't really know real estate, and I started buying a bunch of real estate names. And I was luckily able to sell them at wholesale because I got some good ones. And I got lucky too, because I was able to pick up some names like that have agent in it, and agent is hot now because of AI agents, right? So I've been reluctant to sell those at wholesale because I think that they'll pick up but I think that you really have to start with what and I should have started with names that I knew from investing have value instead of trying to pick a different vertical. My reason for doing that was because, we have different rules, James and I. We're like more limited in what we can do since we work at GoDaddy on what we can buy and how we can sell. So I was trying to buy names that I could actually like flip to end users, but that didn't work out good. So I would have changed that strategy and focused more on looking for names that I knew I could sell to investors and just, reached out to them earlier. And I think would have been able to build more revenue that way. Maybe been in a closer situation, like where you're at, Andrew, and, second place. I was trying to go for the win. And I knew I wasn't going to get to the win by just, flipping names to other investors. But, I think that's the main thing I would do. And the other thing I would do is just like Piyush said, make sure that you're out there promoting stuff earlier. So I really didn't do that a lot until we started getting down to the wire. I was like, oh, I better make some sales. So I started selling.
I'd like to add one more thing, like what
Yeah.
Mike said earlier on X platform. Do not buy too fast. Understand the game. Learn as much as you can. If you got $500 budget, wait, learn before you invest. Otherwise, you're going to run out like the mistake I made. Within a week, I spent all the money and I lost all the potential opportunity, because the names that you buy are not going to sell as fast as you think is going to sell. Don't get impressed with the posts on social media as people have sold for tens of thousands of dollars. They got lucky or they knew what they were doing, right? So you're not going to be that lucky as fast as they had been, right?
I think Joe and Mike would
do your
agree with me.
research.
That's the number one mistake new investors make, right?
Yeah.
Going out and doing too much before learning the game.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I still do that. I'm guilty because I have got other sources of incomes, and I feel like that at the end of the day, I'm going to win. I'm optimistic. I love the names, but I'm still naive. I still make mistakes. No matter how much you can learn, it's never ending, because the trend changes, the trajectory changes. .ai is the hot cake right now. If you look at last 2 years data, you want to buy .ai domains. Like I did 260, 70 names. I spent probably close to $100,000 because I had quick success for first 3 names I bought, and I sold it for $28,000, right? And now not a single sale in last 3 months. So everybody makes mistake, and I'm one of them. But do not buy too fast.
Yeah. If you look at the number of names I have bought in this competition, it's 43. And if we are just to say 365 divided by 43, I'm only buying a domain name once every 8 or 9 days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what I find is that I will go an entire week, every single day, running through all of my expired domains.net saved searches, nothing. Day after day, nothing came up. Or one domain name today, I'm going to watch 5 domain names today. I'm going to watch 4 domain names today. And by the time those domains go through the process and you're on the last day, very few of them are still at no bids. That allows me to put in a bid. That allows me to get it for $1 or $11. Usually, if more than one person have put in a bid by the last day, it's going to go over what I want to pay for it. And so you just got to bide your time and wait for the good domain names that you just get lucky on. Like I texted Andrew I bought it February 9th, Pickleball Fest. Which
Won't stop talking about it. This is the second time he's talked about it on the show. Every time I see him,
I
I got pickleball
domain name. I'm gonna rave about this domain name. So pickleball is growing by leaps and bounds. Fest is a great, sort of suffix that goes on domain names. You type in pickleball fest into search engines, and lots of different pickleball fests. So I think it's just a matter of time before somebody shows up with $10,000, $15,000, or we negotiate and it's a few $1,000s at least. And I think I could easily wholesale it for $500 in the $500 range. Maybe it's $300, maybe it's $400, but I'm not going to wholesale it because I love this domain name. And it wasn't a $1 auction. It just showed up at $50 one day when I was going through. So I used my, at the time, $20 Domain Pro coupon code, took $20 off. I got it for $30 plus the renewal fee. I'm a happy camper. And if I wouldn't have been checking every single day, I wouldn't have seen that. And that's really, what I found during this competition. All my best ones, all my best domains, and not all of them are great on that list, but some of them are really good. They happened because I just found it, and I just did my searching every single day. And you can't do it too early and you can't do it too late. You got to do it right in the middle of the day. And it's just the consistency of it. So if I were to redo it from the beginning of the competition, I would be consistent day in and day out.
Yeah, I think that's a smart Smart advice. One thing I learned too is on pricing. So maybe I'd be interested to hear your take on pricing if you had to do things over. But what I made a mistake of trying to price things too low. You know, I priced everything pretty much at wholesale for bin. I read that somewhere from one of the investors. And I sold two names for end users. I remember one was tarifftool.com. And you know, with all the tariffs and everything that's going on, I think I sold that for $100 and as an end user that picked it up. And so I really would change my strategy and do a very low retail price, much higher than wholesale. So maybe I priced that name at $700 or $800. You know, and still I think it would have sold. And I think that I left money on the table by, you know, pricing everything too low. And then I thought, well, maybe I should price stuff higher, you know, during the contest, because that way, if I get one, you know, end user sale, it's going to move me up in the leaderboard pretty significantly. But what I wound up doing is, I think, pricing everything at like a low retail. And then when I go out and I talk about the name and why I bought it and I want to sell it on social media or, you know, through Discord, then I create a Afternic checkout link that has that price. Right. And the checkout link we've talked about on previous shows, but that way I can offer it to, you know, people that I know are investors and give them that low price. I've set it for 100 or $120 or whatever I'm going to send it at and let them know here. And
Right.
that gives them an instant ability to be able to click that and they have an action that they could take to buy the name right there in the tweet. So
yeah, that's the best thing that Afternic did
Mhm.
is like offering us investors the ability to create a separate link at a discounted price so we can do deals. Yeah,
Mhm.
I agree. And the pricing is difficult. I think, again, we need to always keep our mind tuned into the fact that we are new investors. This is our first year of investing, and it really should be a churn and burn so that you can get
Mhm.
your feet under you and figure out what's a good domain name that has appeal to other investors that hopefully will have broader appeal to end users, and what are the domains that you should stay away from. And I'm not sure that I hit that perfectly either when I was pricing my domains. All my domains were wholesale priced,
Mhm.
except for these latest couple that I've got in my portfolio that I want to keep. But like
Mhm.
all of them, I was just trying to churn and burn. And when
Mhm.
Andrew was talking about the fact that he sold VGOE.com, he bought it for 221, advertised it for sale for 299. I probably would have done the same thing. And then the
Mhm.
fact that Andrew, you've got so many people that were
Yeah,
interested,
I
weren't you
should have
like,
gone
shoot, I should have
Mhm.
priced it at
higher.
maybe 349 or 399, maybe. And that's happened to me multiple times when I would take a domain name and put it in my newsletter, which goes out at 5 a.m. Pacific. Oftentimes, by the time I would wake up, they'd be sold. So I'm ecstatic.
Mhm.
I got that, burn going. And then I would get emails throughout the day saying, hey, the link's not working because Afternic doesn't tell you the domain sold. It just says
Yeah.
like it's
Mhm.
text message that's like something's wrong with this link
Yeah.
or something. And I feel like, well, it had a lot of appeal. Maybe I should have bumped it up another $50 or $100.
Yeah.
So it's hard. And I would just say for investors starting out, don't worry about that. Just churn and
Yep.
burn. If you're successful and you can buy a domain name and sell a domain name within a week, you're heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
And that's what you should be doing. And you listen to investors like Josh Reason, who's on X a lot. That's the way he started out his first couple of years. And, I think it's the right way for investors to figure out the industry.
Yeah, I agree. I think every investor feels like, oh man, I should have priced that different after it sells, right? But I think what you have to do is get away from that and just say, was I profitable? I made some money and I can move on. Like that's a win. And you just have to count it as a win and keep moving ahead.
Yeah, agreed.
Otherwise, you're going to wait for 4 or 5 years and realize that the sale is never going to happen. Even if you have got 3 or 4 letter domain, I had 4 letter domain for 4 years. I paid $400 4 years ago, and I literally sold it last month, probably for $1,800. But that took 4 years, right? So if you are doubling your money probably within a month or 2 or 3, just let it go. This is what I have done now. Ever since I joined this podcast, I'm letting my domains go. As long as I'm 50-80% up, I'm letting it go because there are
Yeah.
better opportunities every single day.
Yeah.
I replaced two-word.net with one-word.net for that even half price. So you'll always have a better opportunity, but you have to let it go. Otherwise, you're going to sit on hundreds of names and you're not going to sell anything, and then you're going to feel burned because a renewal, when it comes to renewal cost, is going to feel like you're not going to like it. Like I did not like it when I have like $10,000 renewal, and probably on .ai I'd have $70,000-$80,000 next year.
Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So let it go. Make some money, reinvest. Do not
Yeah.
sit on it. And
All right, well,
don't buy. I'm going to repeat that. Do not buy too fast. Wait, watch, learn, go slow.
I think we've covered a lot of stuff. I think that's
Yeah.
it's good for today. I just want to tease a couple things out, and I haven't discussed this with anybody, so I'm going to throw it out there. But I was thinking it would be fun to leave the leaderboard up. So next time when we regroup, we're going to go over who wins and the final play. But I think it would be fun to leave the leaderboard up for like another year, and if we sell other names, we just add it in so that people can kind of follow along, because domain investing it's a long play, right? When you buy names, so it would be fun to kind of see where people have gone with the names that they had in their portfolio over the next year. So I'm going to try and keep that up. And I'm also thinking about, so I want to put this out there for people that are watching. If you have questions for us, we're going to have a recap. Put that in the comments so that we can field your questions for next time when we meet. And I'm looking for potentially 6 new investors that want to get started. And what we'll do is we'll get 6 brand new investors. And then I'm going to reach out to, seasoned investors and see if they can come in on different episodes and give people guidance. And we'll go through some of the tools, and we'll walk you through how to do stuff like, go through expireddomains.net. And we'll get you, somebody that you could bounce questions off of, and maybe some ideas so that you have like a mentor. And we'll take the 6 new people and bring you in and help you to be successful. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So if you
That will be fun.
watching
So
this,
the people that are coming in, are they going to roast some of the domains on the show live?
yeah, that would be good. I know it's going to be tough. That's one of the reasons why I think it's good if we can hook them up with a mentor so that you can reach out to them. They'll say, no, don't buy that. You stay away from it. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. And if you're new and you've been watching the show and you say, I'd really like to get involved, leave us a comment. You can send me an email, jstyler@godaddy.com, and we'll get that planned out.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah. So thanks a lot, everybody, for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe and check out the leaderboard to see who wins in the next month. Bye.